excuse, I think. Fire chief's out of fire.
No, I'm not here. The what's happening. It's been pretty safe.
All right, well, we're a minute early, but I'm sure that's all right. Call this meeting to order at 5:59 PM. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Morrison and Councillor Grant. Now therefore be it resolved that the April the 9th meeting of regular council has been called to order at 5:59. We have a number of people in our audience, and we have Simon Foster here, who is an old Calvin resident. I know for many, many years. So welcome back to the township.
Thank you.
Let's move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the suspension of the procedural bylaw. I need a mover and a seconder. Okay. Councillor Manson, and seconded by, there we go. All right. Yes, yeah, Councillor Latimer. Now therefore be resolved that the procedural bylaw be suspended for the duration of the meeting. All in favor? And motion is carried. I'm in favor as well. The next item on the agenda is declarations of disqualifying pecuniary conflict of interest. Are there any? None?
None.
All right, so there are none. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda as circulated. The mover and a seconder, Councillor Morrison and Councillor Grant. And now therefore be resolved that the Council for the Corporation and Municipality of Calvin hereby approves the agenda as circulated. Is there any discussion on the agenda? None? All those in favor? That motion is carried. Oh, somebody's objecting.
That's the page.
All right, next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the previous meeting. A mover and a seconder, Councillor Morton and Councillor Manson. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council for the Corporation of Municipality of Calvin approves the meeting minutes of March the 26th, 2024, be hereby adopted and signed and circulated. Is there any discussion on those minutes? None? Okay, all those in favor? And I am as well. That motion is carried. Next item on the agenda is delegations, which we have none. So we will move on to item number 7. That we received the consent agenda. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Morton and Councillor Manson. There is no discussion because these are the items that weren't moved forward. I will be asking that one item be moved forward to the next meeting, but I will put that in writing later on. So all in favor of receiving the consent agenda? All right, that is carried. And the next item on the agenda is, Simon, we got to you really quickly.
Thank you.
This is 2024-139, a presentation by Simon Foster of Knight Piesel Consulting.
Correct. Yeah.
And your particular, I need to move in a seconder just to initiate. Councillor Grant and Councillor Latimer. Your particular report is on our website.
Okay.
And I'm sure I've read through it, and it is complicated. I see that you have a Master's of Science.
Yeah, in hydrogeology. So, water mostly.
So you need that to understand this report.
Well, that's a good feedback. We should we'll incorporate that into the next time. Simplify it.
So please go ahead with your report.
Right. So Don had asked that I prepare a few slides and just summarize the results of the last 2 years that Knight Piesel have been involved with the landfill monitoring. So I'll share my screen now. Slides. So just the basic slides, only maybe about 10 slides, just really providing a brief background of Knight Piso's involvement in the project, a bit of a history of how long we've been assisting with the environmental monitoring for the municipal landfill here. I'll give a brief description of what that monitoring is that we do on a yearly basis. A brief summary of the results from the most recent report that we put together. And then we had listed some recommendations at the end of the report for the 2024 period onwards.
Could I just do sound check for Councillor Latimer? Are you able to hear Councillor Latimer?
Yes, loud and clear, and the PowerPoint is very clear. Thank you.
Thank you. So the Galvin Municipal Landfill operates based on a certificate of approval that's issued by the Ministry of Environment. This particular permit is, I guess, quite simple in the fact that it's still applicable and it was received back in the 80s. So these certificates of approval look much different today. Much more complicated, have lots of terms, lots of detail. This one pretty much just states that you have a set hectare that you have to fall within, and then you're allowed to be landfilling municipal waste and commercial waste. So that's the guidelines of your certificate of approval. And yeah, any additions, or if you want to expand your landfill, use the Ministry of Environment, or what they call themselves now is the Ministry of Conservation Parks, Environment, Conservation and Parks, MECP. They would have to do an amendment process, and that amendment process would probably add some additional terms and conditions to your waste approval here. The company I'm with is called Knight Piso. We were based out of North Bay. We were first involved in the project in 2005. So, and it's been pretty well established since 2005. There's a couple periods of time where there's different consultants that were helping you out with your compliance monitoring, but for the large part, KP has been involved for the last 20 years or so. Our involvement includes the environmental monitoring, but as well as capacity assessment and liability costing. So not only are we, looking at the environmental compliance, but also a lot of times municipalities want to understand how many years left you have in your landfill for active landfilling. And also what is the liability of that landfill, both from remaining years, but also closure costs. So if you're going to close that landfill off, and there's some certain engineering that has to happen to continuously protect the environment, caps and that kind of thing. A bit about KP. KP is an environmental and engineering consulting group in North Bay, which is located off of O'Brien Street. We have about 50 scientists and engineers, and we complete a similar scope to the Calvin landfill at a few different municipalities as well: Chisholm, Wasson, Macquarie, East Ferris, and then historically we had Bonfield, as well as the municipality of Cochrane up north. The program itself that we've been doing, and we had done in 2022 and 2023, consists of a few things. So we call it water quality monitoring. So I'll show in the next slide a picture of what this looks like, but essentially the landfill has a series of these blue wells around the perimeter of the landfill. And as part of our task, we'll have somebody at the landfill and sample from those wells. And those wells are sampling groundwater from the ground, and reporting on if there's any contaminants within the groundwater downgrading to the landfill. A series of 13 of these monitoring wells that you'll see around the landfill. Occasionally, the closest resident to the landfill itself on 188 Adams Road, that residential well will get sampled. It's pretty common as part of any type of compliance monitoring, that the closest residential well, for example, to confirm that the quality meets Ontario drinking water standards. Surface water, there's not much surface water in the immediate area of the landfill. There's a couple perennial streams that are sampled, but the biggest one obviously is the Amable de Fond River. That's quite a large river downstream of the landfill. This is just a general map that we've included within the last annual report. There's a lot going on, but essentially hard to see it from this scale, but you can trust my word. There's a series of black dots around the perimeter of the landfill that represents the locations of those monitoring wells. The blue arrows just represent the direction that groundwater wants to flow from the landfill. So we're in the direction that's downgrading or downhill of the landfill. Those are the wells that are most important from a compliance monitoring point of view. Those occasionally wells that are located upstream of the landfill. In this case, we have a couple, and what their objective is to monitor the background quality of the groundwater. So a lot of the time we are comparing to a background well, one that's not impacted by the landfill operation itself. Here. So the main water quality results from the report, this is just generally speaking, there were no health-related groundwater quality exceedances, downgrading of the landfill in 2022, 2023. That means that the water that we are taking from those 13 wells meet Ontario drinking water standards, which is great. For health-related concerns, there were, and as noted in the second bullet, some what we call aesthetic parameters. So they don't affect your health directly, but they affect the taste, the smell, that kind of thing. So which is very common throughout all of North Ontario. Things like iron, chloride, they can be naturally high in various locations as well. As a hardness, if you have hard water, for example, that would exceed an aesthetic parameter. So in this case, the wells that were closest downstream from the landfill had elevated chloride, sulfate, manganese. There's a listed here, nitrates, but they were less than the prescribed standards of the Ontario drinking water standards. So good news. We do monitor closely nitrate levels, down gradient of the landfill. So back in 2017, 2019 period. So this would be a couple of reports ago. We noted that there were some elevated nitrate levels above the Ontario drinking water standards. So that was a bit of cause for concern. And so in that report, we had stated that ongoing, we have to be looking at nitrates closely to see if they're in fact going down. And so we make a point in our reports to trend the nitrate levels to show that they are in fact now meeting the Ontario drinking water standards. And it does show a decreasing trend. Surface water, largely samples the locations are largely dry. There's not much to report, but when we do successfully collect a sample, there's no issues with the surface water as well. Want to mention too, typically the way we've been reporting, we report 2 years worth of data. So the 2022, 2023, that's both of those years are collectively summed up in one report that we're issuing to the municipality here. This is the general format that the results come in. You won't be able to see any detail here, but it's large tables of all the data. And so highlighted within the table are any exceedances that are noted. So there's typically a color change when that specific value is exceeding standard. That's what those tables mean. That's how we track exceedances to see if there's any issues with the water quality. So in the report itself, there's a series of about 5 or 6 of these tables that present the results of the data. So the recommendations put forth in the report, kind of a boilerplate, point here, we recommend continuing with the water sampling and, the QA/QC, so not mentioned within the presentation here, but there is some work that's done to make sure that the sampling that we're doing follows, quality assurance. So we recommend continuing with the sampling and the quality assurance program that we have in place for the landfill sampling. Every few years, for the second point, we replace the mechanism that we're using to collect the groundwater in the wells. It's called Waterra tubing. We recommend replacing that just because it gets old and a bit brittle. So this is probably the fourth, fifth year that we've had the equipment in the wells, and so we recommend replacing it in 2024. The third point here, physical barriers such as tractor tires or bollards are recommended to be placed around wells that have any kind of traffic associated with them. So as the landfill continues to expand out, there's going to be a point in which the waste meets a well, for example. Typically what we recommend is you place tractor tires or cement bollard or some type of a cement caisson to prevent that from being knocked over. So just best practice. We have an instance where one of the wells now is damaged. So that's the kind of the recommendation for the third point is there was some sand back in fall of 2023 that was replaced around and kind of pushed over one of the wells. So it's recommended that that well get kind of either professionally decommissioned, which requires the well driller, or just remove the sand and properly keep those bollards up. There's another well here, NW10, that was landfilled over, appears to be landfilled over. So we recommend some work to kind of dig it up and decommission it. Or what we can do is you put a collar on it and extend the well so that it's at a higher elevation. So you are able to still landfill around it, but we're still able to access the well itself.
Simon, how deep
Yeah.
are those wells? Are they?
They're not very deep. They're less than, I'd say, 10 meters. So
Okay.
yeah,
You
mostly
said to have a well driller come in. That sounds like that would be an expensive proposition.
that is, yeah, wouldn't be my recommendation.
Right.
Yeah, well drillers, you wouldn't need particularly a well driller. Typically, geotech style drilling is more where we're dealing with, 10 meters depth. They have smaller rigs than a well driller. They would come in and decommission it, but yeah,
When you say decommission, that means capping it?
so there's regulations for how to properly decommission a well. It's typically plug the center of it with bentonite, with a clay, a swelling clay, and then pull the PVC. So your typical well install will have a steel casing. The ones here at the landfill are under environmental style. They have plastic. It's all PVC plastic, and so typically they're able to just fill the annulus of the well and then pull the plastic, and then that creates a plug. So then you're not encouraging your landfill leachate that gets generated from the landfill straight into where the well was.
Yeah.
And so that's the recommendation usually.
Can I ask again if you'd explain MW10?
Yeah, NW10. This figure won't help at all, but actually my next, here we go. So I included a couple of pictures. So MW4 is the one on the left. This had some sand backfilled around it. It may fail in the future. It looks like it's still standing up right now, but just to remove that sand pile, it would be my recommendation there. The one on the right is the MW10. It's hard to see from the, but there's a blue case in there. This photo was taken in the spring of 2023. And so by the fall of 2023, our field staff weren't able to find it. So it's the likelihood is that it been landfill over. So in those cases, I think we have the coordinate for where the well is. We can provide the coordinate, and maybe if you had a a piece of equipment can come and dig it out would be probably the first way to do it. Yeah, that would be my recommendation there. You could, once you've dug it out, there's a, a 2-inch coupler, that PVC coupler they could put on that well and extend it higher. Then you can then continue to place waste around it. Yeah. Yeah, the main purpose of the well that's actually within the waste itself is to characterize like a worst possible case water quality. So we say, okay, well, the well that's in the landfill, the main of the landfill body, it's in what they call leachate. Leachate's the water that's produced from a landfill. It's very characteristic, has very characteristic parameters. And so we typically use that result and the parameters from that well to evaluate downstream what the impacts are. Not to get too much into it, but yeah, it's an important well that we would want to sample in the future. And so that was the basis of the report. Open any questions. If anybody.
Sure.
Yeah.
Any questions, anyone? No? On page 11 of your report, you list MW7 and MW4, and MW7 is going up in values each term, and MW4 is going down, and yet MW4 is downstream and MW7 is up behind the scrap metal pile. Why would the one up higher go up in the nitrogen, boron, calcium, magnesium, phosphate, and the one downstream go down? How does that make sense?
Look at the yeah, seven's the background well for like these. Yeah, seven's what we would compare all the results. So it can be naturally high. It's in things like boron. Those are not uncommon, especially here. Calcium, things of those natures are naturally occurring. So
Okay, so that's not necessarily an overflow from the dump.
Right, yeah, so a lot of those times we want to make those points because it's like, hey, your water is naturally elevated in these certain parameters
Okay,
or increasing. And so if we're seeing them downstream, it's not necessarily attributable to your landfill. There's natural variations in calcium and that.
and in all of your reports, you have a rug step.
Yeah, yep.
And all of the values seem pretty good in all of the wells that you've done, but there's always a high level of manganese, iron, and aluminum. Is that something that's coming from our dump, or is that just again naturally occurring?
So it depends on which elevations, if they're
Well, you have them all marked, you said in the thing
Yeah.
that they're all color
elevated.
coded, elevated, those three materials.
So manganese, like iron, are again naturally occurring, but manganese and iron can also be attributable to your landfill. So both are not health related effects. Manganese is that people have manganese in their water all the time. It's if you ever see black coating on your well or anything that's ponded water, that's manganese that's precipitating in your water. Your landfill, the decomposition of the waste in the landfill will produce manganese, but we'd expect it at much higher than we see in that background.
All right.
So RUG, like reasonable use guidelines, are what the ministry. It's a way to explain your water quality results in relation to something other than the drinking water standards. So if you had a really high background concentration, the RUG, the reasonable use guidelines, would be elevated as well. And so you would have then a higher standard to compare your results against. So yeah, it makes use of a background well, makes use of the fact that your parameters are, either concentration that hurts human health effects or aesthetics. And so all of those factors go into making those RUG those rough calculations that we presented.
After looking at all of your charts here and the, some areas that are elevated, the others that aren't, the water, surface water one looked really good, really sound.
Exactly, yeah.
Is there anything that you can see that would imply to you that we should be doing something differently at the dump, or does it look like? Let me just put it in a specific question. Yesterday I went to on Saturday I went to the dump and I saw that somebody had taken a battery and left it at the edge of the dump. I picked it up and brought it back so that it would be recycled, but of course batteries have sulfuric acid. This one did, it was that kind of battery.
Yeah.
Do you see anything that is in our dump? These tables that is indicative of things that we should be doing differently?
No, not any landfill,
Good.
landfilling practices. Metals, I would expect to see cadmium and other battery type derivative metals, nickel, copper, that kind of thing that would be leaching through the landfill. That'd be indicative that you're having battery waste.
Right.
It's common in some other landfills for sure, not this one.
Good.
The recommendations I'd have be mostly to increase your capacity. Things like compacting your waste. Yeah, you have it compacted, but you know, sheep's footing can further reduce, like garbage, like waste itself is quite fluffy. I use that as an example. You only have so much space in your landfill for waste. If you can do things that compact that waste so that it's a smaller footprint, that'd be something that I think is good practice. Some of the landfills shred their waste, for example.
Right.
And so big ticket items like hot tubs and you know, big bulky items can get shredded down to almost nothing. So that helps you increase your capacity and prolongs the life of your.
Tearing apart a mattress, for example.
Exactly. That kind of stuff. So there's a rental sometimes that comes in that I could look up the group, but they will be on site for a few days. And there's, you know, a mechanism that shreds up all the waste and saves the footprint quite a lot.
You had mentioned in your opening comments that a lot of municipalities ask how long that they have until they're, now I see that that's in the proposal to be
Yeah.
studied next year.
That's right.
Do you have like a feeling at this point in time?
Yeah. I'd have to look up the specifics, but it's like on the order of tens of years. There could be things that can be done to increase that length, obviously, like I mentioned, but yeah, so we have that 2.25 hectare area that you have to fall within. The height of the waste is mostly driven by stability for waste. So you don't want to build things too high because it's gonna fail from a geo. There's only a practical limit to how high you can bring your waste. So that recommendation, I believe I was talking to Donna about that earlier in the year, was included because it's been a few years since we've done that assessment.
Okay.
The last assessment we did was maybe I want to say 2014. I don't have the specifics, but
I
it's
think
been
it was 2014.
2014. Yeah, it's been quite a while since we've done it. So municipalities like to plan ahead and figure out how many, you know, once we do reach that capacity, or hopefully years prior to that, there's a plan in place where either you know, acquiring new lands or applying for an amendment to your C of A, which is authorized you to landfill, where you want to expand that capacity.
So if, let's just say theoretically, 20 years, we're good for 20 years with the existing dump. And I'm just theoretically, after that point, we still have to monitor this well for another 20 years on top of that? I mean, this landfill for another 20 years?
Yeah, it depends. It's not, yeah, that's the typical, that's the base monitoring period is a 20-year monitoring period.
So you'd have two then, you'd have to open a new dump, monitor that one and be monitoring the old one. So it's really in our best interest.
To expand the existing.
To expand the existing.
Right, you have one place where you're monitoring, you're only wanting one facility rather than multiple facilities.
Right.
Like I use municipality of Cochrane, for example, they have multiple facilities. They're still having to monitor And the two facilities are miles apart, like, maybe tens or 20s of kilometers away from each other. So, yeah, they're not even in the same area. And so they're going to repurpose the one landfill and applying for amendments to quit sampling it. Because it's, once it shows that it's chemically stable, you can try to ask the MECP to reduce that cost of monitoring that landfill.
Gotcha. Well, thank you very much. Does anyone
Simon,
else
I have a question and a comment. First question is, I can't see the legend, but is the green line, is that the extent of is that the area that remains to be used as a landfill? And comment was something I've always wondered about. The direction of the groundwater flow is away from the river, judging by your graphic. That's kind of reassuring to me. I've always wondered about that.
Correct, yeah, for the first part, the green line does represent the theoretical limits of your waste, of your landfill. There's a certain buffer from that green line to the closest creek. And so that's, let's call it an attenuation buffer, so you have to maintain a certain setback from water courses. So that's why that green line looks like that. And you're absolutely correct. The groundwater flow directions, the blue lines that we see on the flow here, are in a southeast direction, whereas the Mavla de Fond is down the hill on the left-hand side. So the landfill is uniquely located, kind of on a bit of a hill. So it's a bit of a divide between the two flow, but in this case, the main flow directions with topography to the southeast.
Great, thank you.
If I might, just a couple of comments. Thank you, Simon, for your presentation. I know that we haven't been able to connect as much as I would have even liked to in the past few months, but council will attest to the fact that, at least since I'm here, we're talking a lot about landfill and about preserving and reserving and how important your project is on a biannual basis. We continue to do this monitoring and that we continue to embark on strategies at the landfill and to educate our landfill attendants, council members, and the public. And in fact, you'll see later tonight, we have, a project in front of us, and the compactor, council isn't aware of this. It's not on the agenda because it only occurred over the weekend. The compactor that we do have is now toast.
Oh, okay.
And so, we will be talking about that at future meetings, about the things that we can do with compacting, to do a better job. And I'm happy to see that in the report, because it then also gives us a rationale to go back to our funders and, there are programs out there to help with these kinds of initiatives, especially at landfill and conserving the lifespan of the landfill. And if you recall, when BDO was here doing their presentation of our audit, the landfill and the lifetime and, preserving the landfill and how much time you have left in that, the proper amount of reserves set aside, all ties into a report like this. So it's all encompassing. And then we talk about how council will be looking at setting the direction of, the activities of the council and the municipality in the upcoming years. We'll be talking about that in the next few weeks. And your project and your report is very timely and essential for council to be aware of. So thank you so much for your presentation, for coming tonight, and we will be in touch again.
Thank you. No, my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
just, if I may call this to a vote to accept the report. Now therefore be it resolved, the Council for the Corporation and Municipality of Calvin welcomes Mr. Simon Foster from Knight Piso and accepts the presentation of the summary of the 2022-23 landfill report. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very
And one more before we maybe invite him to leave.
Yes, well, this is, the next item on the agenda is 2024-140, which is the contract with Knight Piso for the landfill. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Councilor Morton, Councilor Manson. So we have the report here, and it was another short one, only 25 pages long.
Mhm.
It goes through the same kind of detail, and in here it does talk about some of the things that Simon's mentioned, plus the ideas of building reports for the longevity and so forth of the landfill. Is there any discussion on this? Any questions? None? Then, I didn't ask for a mover and a seconder, did I? Yeah, yeah, all right. Okay, so this is 2024 dash 021, the Municipality Act of 2001, C25, authorizing municipalities to enter into an agreement. Okay. I have a different one. Two.
It's the resolution, then the bylaw.
I see, that's why I haven't, yeah, okay, so here's the resolution. The Council of the Corporation and Municipality of Calvin approves the Calvin landfill site environmental monitoring and reporting proposal as attached, provided by Knight Piézold Consulting, and agrees to enter into a contract with them as per the attached contract and bylaw 2024-21.
And then we're going to a little bit of an explanation about how we can do that. I think it's important to read the next.
In accordance with the bylaw, bylaw 2004-022, where the procurement policy is not required with respect to a transaction specifically authorized by resolution of council, to be exempt from this tendering policy when purchases for consulting services as per section 4.3-2.3, i.e. landfill reports, bridge inspections and evaluations, have been clearly awarded to a consulting firm on an ongoing basis with Knight Piézold Consulting for the 2024-2025 period. Any discussion, comments? Then I will call this to a vote. All those in favor of accepting this contract? All right, so that motion is carried. Thank you very much. Simon, you may stay as long as you wish, or you can go and enjoy this summer sunny
Yes,
April afternoon.
thank you. I may go, but I do
Go.
appreciate the opportunity. Yeah. And yeah, look forward to working with you over the next 2 years.
So this is the actual bylaw for that, whereas I need to move to the seconder for the bylaw. That's Councillor Manson and Councillor Morton. This is the one I was starting to read. The Municipal Act authorizes municipalities to enter into an agreement, and whereas the Council for the Corporation Municipality Calvin deem it necessary to enter into an agreement for landfill environmental monitoring and reporting, therefore be it resolved, the Council of the Municipality ratifies the attached agreement, that the mayor and the CAO are designated signing officers and are authorized to execute the agreement, and that the agreement between the corporation and the municipality of Calvin and Knight Piézold be hereto attached and form part of the parcel of this bylaw. This agreement shall be enacted and its effect upon the signing thereof. So, all those in favor? And that bylaw is carried. Sign your copy here. All right, so on to the next item on the agenda, which is a resolution for federal infrastructure funding, not keeping pace with population growth. Mover and a seconder for discussion, please. Councillor Manson and Councillor Morton. Excuse my voice, I'm raspy here tonight. I might have to get down and start reading some of
Okay.
these.
Chose the longest one for me to read, make it.
Do you want to, no? Federal infrastructure funding not keeping pace with population growth. Whereas according to the Statistics Canada, the cost of upgrading existing municipal infrastructure so that it is in a state of good repair, it is in the range of 170 billion.
Oh, I can read this. if you
Oh,
want me to.
please.
Yeah, it's
Oh.
before it says whereas non-residential construction price inflation has risen by 29% since the end of 2020, municipalities are facing soaring costs for infrastructure project without a corresponding growth in revenue. And whereas unlike federal and provincial revenue, municipal tax revenue has not increased in recent years along with inflation, economic growth, or population growth. And whereas the municipalities are facing a gap in federal infrastructure funding as the 10-year investing in Canada infrastructure program has come to an end, the Canada Community Building Fund is being renegotiated and the permanent public transit fund is set to start in 2026. Whereas the Canada Community Building Fund, which was formerly known as the Gas Tax Fund, provides more than $2.4 billion in annual capital funding directly to municipalities through a predictable allocation mechanism, and municipalities of all sizes use the CCBF to deliver direct results for Canadians by building and renewing critical core public infrastructure, including water infrastructure, local roads, public transit, and community and cultural and recreational facilities. Now therefore be resolved that the federal government work with agreement signatories and municipalities to maintain the CCBF as a source of direct, predictable, long-term funding for local infrastructure priorities, and further be it that the federal government commit in budget 2024 to the next generation of infrastructure programs, including a new program for water and wastewater infrastructure and an increase to the disaster mitigation and adaptation fund. And be it further that the federal government convene provinces, territories, and municipalities to negotiate a municipal growth framework to modernize the way the municipalities are funded in order to enable Canada's long-term growth. That council directs staff to mail the attached letter prepared by the mayor to Anthony Rhoda MP, Nipissing constituency, and to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities.
Thank you. Much better than I would have done, I'm sure.
Sorry.
Discussion. Comments. Questions. Go ahead, Councilor Grant.
I appreciate you, writing a letter. Are you wrote,
It was FCM actually had the template for us.
well, there you go. I appreciate you signing the letter.
There you go.
If I might, CCBF for us has been very critical, and some of the things that Simon mentioned tonight could actually be covered in there. So anything landfill, the recreation program, that we funded, all of the beautification and modernization of this hall came from that fund, as do many of our roads projects come out of that fund. Landfill, there are very strict guidelines about, and strict but yet general in nature, the kinds of projects that we can fit under a CCBF. Traditionally, this municipality has spent the funds strictly on roads, but you heard, while roads are very important, so was our landfill. So when you move into another session, as I mentioned earlier, talking about the things and the strategies that this council would like to achieve between now and the end of their term, another thing to consider is how important CCBF is and how we allocate those funds and how you as a council reserve those funds for certain typical projects. So CCBF is, as according to FCM, under attack, and to use Mayor Gould's, and it's important for small municipalities as we are, for all the reasons mentioned, that we make sure that continuous predictable funding for municipalities.
Yeah, another just comment in addition to that, just from a political perspective, I mean, you have, it talks about revenue sources, right? And federal and provincial revenue sources, as inflation rises and the cost of goods rise, they actually make more money off of their percentage based on the goods. So some of the tax revenue tools they have are very, working very well for them.
But not for us.
And not for us, not for people's properties and property values. And so it's important that they share that down with us. Also, it just makes a lot of sense from a political perspective for all residents, because especially municipalities like Calvin, we are the closest to the people. Believe it or not, we are the most efficient level of government. So when they waste when they use our money at provincial and federal level, we get a really good bang for our buck here when we spend money as compared to
Absolutely.
the federal level. So when they share that down with us, when they give us our money back, it's, we don't waste it. We're not allowed to, and our residents would throw fits, so. But on a federal level, you don't have much say or much power, so a couple $1 million don't go very far.
Any other comments? Thank you, Councilor Grant. Any other comments?
Sir.
All right, so then we'll call this to a vote. Resolution 2024-141, all those in favor? I am as well, so that motion is carried and I'll sign the letter. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is 9112, which is resolution 2024-142. This is to talk about the food cycle science company. I need to move her in a second. Well, actually, it's moved by Councillor Madsen. He brought this motion forward, and I need a seconder. Councillor Drennan? Sure.
Whereas council recently engaged in a presentation with the Food Cycle Science Company regarding the National Food Waste Diversion Pilot Program, and whereas the benefits of the food cycler as outlined during the presentation and attached to the flyer point out the following: divert 25 to 50% of trash in participating households, reduce the need for regular trash collection, reduce nuisances from raccoons, pests, and other vermin, remarkable cost savings from trash diversion. Whereas other neighboring municipalities have participated in the pilot program, noting a positive and successful outcome. Now therefore be resolved that council for the corporation of the municipality of Calvin has received the attached information package regarding the process, purchase, and terms of the municipal food waste diversion pilot program, and direct staff to communicate the offer to residents in order to assess interest. If there is enough residents interested to fulfill the minimum of 50 order of 50 units, then staff is directed to proceed with the purchase.
So discussion. Councillor Madsen, your first shot, as it's your motion.
I thought that presentation was useful when they did it. It's a way to, I'm a big composter myself. So apparently this unit, the two sizes, one of them will do 2.5 liters of product and turn it into a compost after a 12-hour kind of shift in the machine. The other one is a 5 liter. The residents get a subsidized price for this. The municipality pays looks like $100 per unit, and perhaps some tax and shipping. And the residents pay either $150 for the 2.5 liter or $300 for the 5 liter. So I thought, you know, it might be a good use of our resources. As I noticed, like I'm running out to my composting barrels a couple times a week. I have one in the kitchen that I fill up and then I go and it's supposed to be empty today. I didn't get around to it. So it would divert some waste from landfill, as well as turns you know, food waste into usable compost for the residents. So if the residents, you know, it wouldn't make a lot of sense to buy some units and have them sit on the shelf here, but if we were able to send out a communication and gauge interest, and if it was you know, a reasonable take up, I think it might be useful. So hence me bringing it back.
Thank you very much. Anybody else, any comments?
Councillor Manson, the cost of, sorry, cutting somebody off there. So the cost of the unit is what, $300? Is that what I heard you say, Councillor Manson?
Yes.
Well, it looks like there's 2 units, so the resident would pay either $150 or $300. And whichever one that they selected, the municipality would pay $100 of that, on top of that, I should say.
Okay. And we subsidize it
Yes,
with $100, okay?
I believe it wasn't 100% clear in materials, but I believe that the municipality pays the taxation or may pay the taxation, and they do pay the shipping. which was quoted at about $800 as an estimate for the, for 50 units.
Comes to
Okay,
$116
thank you.
for that.
Dr. Grant?
Yeah, I'm ready to make up comments. I think it would, so just from my experience living in the city of Guelph, they force you to separate food waste. And it makes a massive difference in bulk garbage, like there's an unreal amount of food waste and garbage. And, you know, I think that if we had, I'm on the fence on this one, but I do believe if we had 50 residents that were interested in the program, if we could gauge those residents and, you know, we're basically, you know, investing in, I think the strategy, I think it makes sense to invest in this in the sense that if there was 50 residents that were interested, that, you know, that we would probably divert quite a large amount of waste. And it's a way of incentivizing people to divert waste instead of punishing. And I tend to favor those ideas. So, you know, I think I could support the motion. I'm skeptical of, you know, I'd have 50 people, but I think that would be great if we had 50 people interested and get it forward.
Any other?
Yeah, all in favor of the composting, but I think all of us compost at home, and if they could find 50 people that are interested in this that live in our rural community, that's great. We'll go for it. It is, in my opinion, it's directed more towards the city dweller who has limited space. Nearly all of us have 3 or 4 big composting things. We get rid of all of our food waste through the composting, then we turn that into our gardens. It never sees the light of day at the dump. But as I said, if there's 50 people interested, and we're gonna help them out.
Okay. The only concern I have, if I may jump in as well, is just the cost of the project. And that is, reading through their documentation here, our buy-in has to be $17,050. And then we get 50 of these units, and then we have to retail those to 50 consumers. And just because someone says that they're interested, doesn't mean that they'll go through with a purchase. So, I mean, if you are going to do this, I think you have to have money up front to say that, yeah, if it's not just a matter of, are you interested? Because I think people will say, yes, I'm interested. And then when it comes to shelling out because it's either 300 or 150. And even if we sell all of the 50 units, our cost is $5,800. And I'm not sure if, you know, we have that in right now we're facing we've got to do a budget, we've got to do a financial statement. I don't know if that's, for me, the best choice of $5,800, but it may be. The problem, I think, is making sure that you do have 50 units sold. I just recently watched a council meeting from, it was sent to me, what's the name of the municipality?
Mark Stay Warren?
Marks Day Warren, that's right. I watched Marks Day Warren, and they're talking about their financial situation, and they talked about the fact that they had ordered 30 of these units under the basis that they thought that they could sell all 30, and they only sold 6. And the rest they donated to charity because they couldn't sell them. I would hate to put the municipality in a situation where we have a $10,000 loss because we assume that people might be interested. My feeling would simply be that if we're going to move forward, at least we have a firm commitment of units before we enter into a contract with these people. I did do some research. You can buy on Amazon.ca an equal size unit for $400. So, this company has done some really great marketing where we're paying $100 of the $400 and the consumer's paying $300. And, I do have one last concern, and if you look at the presentation, it says that, you have to, every 3 to 4 months, buy replacement filters for these units. And each 3 to 4 months, those replacement units are going to cost you $34.99 from the company. And the only place you can get them is online. So you're gonna have people coming into the office and saying, well, I don't have access to that. Where am I gonna get my replacement units? So those are just my concerns, is the cost to the township, the efficacy of making sure that you have people that are definitely committed, and the cost of maintaining the units. But Councillor Manson, I think it's an excellent idea to be working towards what you're trying to do, which is solve our landfill woes as best as we can. So an admirable effort on your part. Like I said, I just have a couple of concerns. It's up to council. Does anyone
Mayor Gould,
have?
I have a question. I wasn't, or a comment. I wasn't aware that we would become resellers. The way you've explained it is we buy them and then we sell them to the residents and subsidize $100. That's the concept is good, but we don't have a budget for this year, and not really. Could we put this off into the future when we do know our financial situation?
We can defer it for a period of time. Certainly, that would have to be a motion from the floor to defer it, but. Donna,
I don't know when I should introduce the idea, but again, we're moving into strategic planning and strategic where council might go, and it feels like it's becoming a theme and has been a theme over time here in the last few months. And maybe this is somewhere where we can bring it to that table to say this is an initiative that we might want to include in a strategic priority, fit in with the landfill. And when we do a strategic plan initiative with community that will involve surveys, that may be the time to ask that question. Not only would you be interested, but will you commit dollars too during that time? I don't know how else we would survey our residents at this point in time without a formal mechanism to do that. We know that our Facebook needs to be built up, our social media sites need to be built. So outside of sending something with taxation with a self-adjust stamp envelope that says come back and tell us. But you're right though, Councillor, it does, Councillor Latimer, we would be, as Mayor Gould said, we are responsible for the upfronting of $17,000, whether we sell them or not. At the end of the day, 17,000 is upfront.
right,
Can we make it that, we don't, if they come in with their whatever their money, but we get paid 50 people, then Lord.
you can do that whatever you want.
You know, just in light of some of the comments, like I said, I am on the fence, but I just, you know, I feel like it makes sense to build into a budget. You know, and, you know, maybe we could either defer the resolution, and do it that way, or even change the resolution, but just to see if there's interest. You know, and build it into a budget, I think makes sense. And maybe there's no, I don't know, maybe there's not a lot of interest. I don't, right?
Councillor Manson, it is a good idea. There's no doubt about it. That if it was workable and doable, it would be beneficial, without a doubt. What about just changing the resolution to state that we take out the last sentence? If there is enough interest to fulfill 50 units, then staff are directed to proceed. We leave that section out, but we hold the market to see what interest there
Yeah,
is.
we make a list.
How would you feel about that? If this is your resolution?
Well, yeah, the delegation came, we watched the presentation. I took a little interest in it then. I spoke to Bonfield they said that they did an order. They had full subscription to it. They had enough demand for a second order almost, but not quite. The person I spoke to there said that she enjoyed her unit. I believe that Donna, you indicated you had a unit.
Yeah, actually, do you want me to bring mine next time we meet?
Well, it's just, I wanted to bring it back because it kind of, that delegation just kind of slipped away and nothing became of it. So I thought, let's circle back to that and just see. So I think that maybe also having people not just put their hand up and say, yes, I have interest, but also put skin in the game for a deposit, maybe might be an approach too. But I'm also aware that we don't have a budget right now. So it's, deferring it, keeping it as an item that we could,
It's a good idea, there's no doubt.
I think you could, if we had 50 people buying it, I think we'd be impressed. The volume of garbage that would be diverted.
Right.
What about deferring it and have Donna bring the actual unit? And and then people can see it on the video, actually, instead of looking at it on paper.
I think if they do have a video that they can do YouTube or whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have to get a filter first, I have to tell you, sorry. I've been putting off buying the filter. But I will.
I think, yeah.
I can bring it to you, just let you can see what it looks like, if that will help too, right?
Well, we have three choices here. One, we can vote on this as it stands, which clearly states that if the 50 people say that they're interested, that we're gonna go ahead and purchase these units, which is make a $17,000 commitment. The second thing that we can do is, if there is, take out that last sentence and just gauge the interest of the population at this point in time, and then at a future meeting, bring forth the resolution to proceed with the purchase. Or the second is just to defer the whole thing until a later point in time. So
John introduced it.
you introduced it, John, so
well, I guess take the temperature of the population, I think might make sense, so.
okay.
We can remove that line to execute and pull the people and see, maybe there will be not enough interest and then it'll just be done with it.
Sure.
They do have marketing support as well at that company in terms of probably organize some sort of joint venture, reach out for their to pull that audience with.
All right. So are you bringing that forward to remove
Yes.
this line?
Thank you.
All right, then,
In fairness to our residents, how are we gonna promote this as far as identifying interest? Cause just figuring out the website isn't reaching all of our residents. Some of them can't afford to pay their taxes.
I
They
don't know.
don't have internet.
that's a good question.
Well, like putting out in the internet, you're gonna get a segment of the population. But
Landfill,
there's another segment of the population that don't even look at it.
Landfill?
can we print some and just, if people want to check it out?
Say the landfill, visible, looking for it here.
Leave it with us, I mean, instruct staff to.
We're asking staff
It is,
to,
yeah,
Yeah.
communicate, so.
all right,
Thank you.
and thank you for bringing this forward, for sure. So then the resolution reads, call this for a vote. Now therefore be it resolved, the Council for the Corporation Municipality of Calvin has received the attached information package regarding the process, purchase, and terms of the municipal food waste diversion pilot program, and direct staff to communicate the offer to residents in order to access interest. Thanks, Jack. All those in favor? And I am as well, so that motion carries with the amendment. Next item on the agenda, resolution 2024-143, moved by Councillor Morton. This is for Voyager Days. I need a seconder, please. Okay, Councillor Manson. The Mattawa Voyager Days contributes positively to the region's citizens, visitors, and businesses. Now therefore be it resolved, the municipality of Calvin 2024 budget include a sponsorship contribution of $500 to the 25th year anniversary event. So, Councillor Morton, you moved it, so you get to speak first.
Well, it's, since I moved here, it's the most impactful event in this area. How much it actually draws to the business community of Calvin, I'm not sure, but the, anybody that I've talked to since I moved here says basically after Mattawa Voyager days, the town closed down. And being that it's 25th anniversary, and the small contribution, I know they've had some sponsors that issues in the past. I thought it would be a good thing for Calvin to step up to the plate to support them. And one of the bonuses, part of my discussion with staff was that if we went to the level that I'm recommending, we would include a wristband that could potentially be offered as part of a prize package for an upcoming event that the staff's proposing.
Which upcoming event is that?
I thought, like you started.
Yeah, name the fire truck. We talked about naming the fire truck, the bill.
Fire truck or the,
Sorry, not the fire truck.
your new truck.
Started a rumor, we're buying a fire truck. You know, Councillor Morton, did speak to what do we do with this wristband, you know, if council did approve this, and I said, you know, jokingly, we said, well, it could be a prize if we had that contest for naming the new dump truck. Just invest.
Our snow plow. Yeah. So anyway, those are my thoughts.
Okay. Comments from anyone?
A lot of Calvin residents will attend, and many, it's really kind of a high school reunion for many people, and a lot of Calvin residents attended high school in Mattawa. I'm in favor of it, even though it goes against our precedent of not donating to charity. I don't know if this is a charity or not, but I think it's a good investment.
Anybody else? Councilor?
I agree. All the thoughts you outlined make a lot of sense, and yeah, it's a huge event. I think it makes sense.
Councilor Grant?
I don't have much to say. I'm just gonna stick to my principled position I've taken previously, and I think it's basically it's a event. It's run by the municipality of Mattawa, and we have little to no say over how or why it's run, and residents are encouraged they can buy tickets, and our businesses can buy sponsorships and support it, and we don't have a budget yet, and you know, I'm gonna stick to, I probably will not support the resolutions for those reasons.
Thank you, Councilor Grant.
Not to discount any of the other reasons of the other councils, because I think they're all valid as well.
Sure. And I'm afraid that I'm sort of on your side of the fence on this as well, Councilor Grant. I think that we don't have a budget in place, and I think at some point in time, we have to pass a bylaw that talks about how we're going to deal with all charitable requests and donations for schools, churches, charitable organizations and events. And we have to kind of put some kind of policy in place. And until we have a budget, for me, this would be something I'm not 100% in favor of. But again, everyone else has presented really good ideas as to why. So that's why we have votes, and that's why we decide. So if there's no other discussion, call this to a vote. So all those in favor of the $500 sponsorship contribution to the 25th anniversary event? Okay, and all those against? Okay, so the vote is 3-2, so it carries and the $500 donation passes.
And I agree with your comment, Mayor Gould, that we do need a policy. So it's not which way the wind is blowing at the moment.
Right. All right, so thank you for that. The next item on the agenda is that we have resolution 2024-144. Is that correct? Yes. This is about the union passing as of today. I need a mover and a seconder to discuss this. That's Councillor Morton and Councillor Manson. Whereas mid 2022 staff members employed by the municipality elected for a union through Unifor, and whereas the employees bargaining committee in Unifor reached a contract agreement, and whereas the membership voted on the agreement on April the 8th, 2024, and the results of the vote that there is now in place a collective agreement. The Council for the Corporation of the Municipality of Calvin directs the CAO to implement the agreement as attached. And it is now attached, so this was.
Just a note at the bottom so that public knows why it wasn't on site.
Okay, so it wasn't on the Facebook page because since the vote took place the evening prior to this meeting, it was not available for public presentation until right now. Is there any discussion on the union? Yes,
I thought they had vote last summer. That'd be mid 2020.
no, that was to go into a union, but this is the collective bargaining agreement.
No, the first line was that they
They elected,
elected to form a union.
right, in mid 2022.
That would be before we took, I thought it was during when Real was here. That would be 2023.
2023, it is 2023, you're right.
Yes.
Yeah.
In
Good
2020.
catch, Bill.
Yeah.
And so,
See, the years go by so fast.
Well, I just remember it's a cause and effect thing. It's easy to remember.
Okay, is there any discussion on this unionization? None? None?
Do we know the results of the vote? Or is it just simply that it passed?
It passed.
There's now an agreement, the agreement that we negotiated with Unifor has now been agreed to by the membership,
Period? Okay.
period, yeah.
All right. So we're moving that the CAO implement this agreement as it is attached. So all those in favor? All right, that is unanimously carried. Thank you very much. And now our fire chief is away at a fire call, but the next item on the agenda is to receive the fire department report prepared by the fire chief. If I could just have a mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Grant and Councillor Morton. The substance of this report is going to be a couple of motions. So I'm going to turn this section over to our CAO. And I'll just take a vote on receiving this report. So all those in favor? Okay, and that is carried. So the next item on the agenda is the 2006 Chevy rescue truck. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Morton and Councillor Manson. Do you want to just go ahead?
Sure. Again, apologies for Mariel. She's out fighting fires today since late afternoon in Papua New Cameron. They have a bushfire up there that M&R's actually been called into, so it's quite serious. The rain will be welcome to them. Hope they're doing well. The first is to introduce another surplus vehicle, the 2005 rescue truck. It's been taken out of service for quite some time now. So in keeping with this council's desire to bring some cash into the bank and to set these, the sale, once we do have it, would go into reserves for the fire hall reserves. So the motion that you have in front of you, if I might read it. Whereas the 2006 Chevrolet 3500 rescue truck has been taken out of service, now therefore be resolved that council hereby declares the 2006 Chevrolet 3500 rescue truck with its VIN number as surplus to the needs of the municipality, and hereby authorizes the fire chief and CAO to offer up this vehicle and or any of its parts for sale as is best offer. And we have the bid form attached so that tomorrow, if you approve this, we can actually get that published and bids coming in.
Discussion? Questions?
As we mentioned before, there's one set of tires for that unit. It's never been on the road, never been attached to the truck.
Yeah.
But that's been sitting out there rusting for 2 years. It's about time to get rid of it.
All right.
Question,
That-
The, part of the fire chief's report was a request for new equipment. Is the sale of this and the other vehicle, does that go into an account or fund to support or purchase new equipment for the fire department, or does it go into general revenue?
And that was my point when I brought the discussion up, is that we would ensure certain in the accounting piece of it internally to set these funds now aside to where they belong, and that is in the fire department's reserves for their use.
Very good, thank you.
Good question.
I do want to bring up something that I don't think Mariel caught, or neither did I, Councillor Morton, though, about the tires, as we did with another one of those, we could separate them and put them into a separate bill, a separate bill.
Opera parts.
Yeah, but the bid that you have before you is as the vehicle. We should do a separate one for those new tires. I'll communicate with Mariel and see what she thinks about the status of those tires, and
Well, even the ones that are on it haven't been used,
yeah,
they both said winter and summer, they're both bought when we got the truck.
Well, there's one set would have to go with the vehicle, otherwise.
Yeah, well, but you can't drive it. It's undrivable,
Right.
but it's got a good engine in it, it's just got a crack in the frame.
so
So,
conceivably somebody would pay or bid just enough to pay for the tires, and we would lose out where if we sold the tires separately.
yeah.
Because the
right,
tires would
yeah.
be a number of different vehicles. If we sold it, we said
Bring it down, like,
bring it
parts,
down,
sell
so-
parts.
Mariel and I will look at that for the bid
Yeah.
form, and you may see the bid form come out, the one you have, and then a separate one for the tires, as we did with another. We know we can get.
Yeah, 'cause
Better
there's been somebody wants the engine, we know, somebody wants the tires.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
I just want to take that one to a vote.
sure. We'll call this to a vote. All those in favor of the resolution? I am as well, that is carried unanimously. So, the next item on the agenda is again from the fire department. This is a biggie. So Donna, go for it.
Okay, it's lengthy because I do believe in your discussions regarding budget. There's a sense of urgency to this one, and it's explained, the rationale for that urgency is within the motion that Mariel and I developed collaboratively. So I'll read the detail. Whereas the new fire chief has inspected the fire department's apparatus, equipment, and assets to determine their current remaining useful life expectancy, as well as the quantity of items required to meet the current need. And whereas there is an insufficient number of self-contained breathing apparatus masks available for personnel, resulting in the long-term unsanitary and unhealthy departmental practice of those masks being shared amongst personnel. And whereas there is an insufficient number of firefighting protective gear that meets NFPA 1851 standards and establishes the requirements for selection, care, maintenance of structural firefighting protective clothing and equipment, dictating gear that is 10 years past its manufacturer date should be retired. And whereas the gear which does exist, 4 complete sets are past the expected lifespan, and 1 will expire within a year. And currently, the fire chief has no new PPE issued by the municipality of Calvin. And whereas the fire chief is committed to establishing a safe, healthy, and welcoming environment for all current and future fire department volunteers. And whereas the government of Ontario's 2024 budget announced the creation of a fund sometime in the next 3 years to support the purchase of firefighting equipment. The date of this program's launch is unknown, and the needs of our fire department and the safety of its members should no longer be placed on hold. And whereas when the program is launched, it is very likely, given the department's many needs, it will be applied to other qualifying items. Now therefore be resolved that the current council for the corporation of the municipality of Calvin, recognizing the fire department's equipment needs have not been addressed for multiple years, approves today in advance of the 2024 budget being set, the fire chief's request of $7,500 to purchase 6 self-contained breathing apparatus masks and $18,000 to purchase 6 firefighting gear as soon as possible.
So, Mr. Councilor Morton, you actually moved this.
Yeah.
And I need a seconder. Councilor Grant. And, discussion with Councilor Morton first.
Well, we haven't, the fire department hasn't got equipment for the last 3 or 4 years, and traditionally they got 2 brand new sets every year just to keep up with and the chief and the deputy chief prioritize the brand new equipment goes to the officers who are frontline. So like, I've never had equipment in the 15 years I've been there. Wayne Brown doesn't have any equipment. And we've got 5 brand new firefighters. Unfortunately for us, they're quite a bit taller than the ones that no longer are there. So even the stuff that was useful, there's no way they'd ever fit it. So like, and those guys would have got new equipment over the years, 2 years, 2 years, 2 years. So this basically isn't, other than it's an impactful on this year's budget, it's basically covering a shortfall for the last 3 years.
Thank you. Any other?
I just wanted to speak from a previous firefighter, that PPE is essential. It's the most important, like it's one of them, like it's all important, but you know, have guys that have gear, they have confidence in your gear, makes a huge difference. And it's basically, to me, it's essential to support the resolution as it sits. And there's a budget coming out. It will fit into that budget with the sales of some vehicles that will help, but you know, I would just, you know, supporting this, I would just want the fire chief to, you know, understand that you still have to make a budget work. So it's gotta somehow still fit in. But it's why wait for something like this?
Thank you very much. Anybody else with comments, questions? No? Oh, yeah.
Well, given Mariel is, she's not here, she does fighting a fire as we speak and discuss this on her behalf. She's the chief and I really trust her insights. This was carefully put together with CAO. A lot of thought gone into it. It's an expensive spend, but these people are, when they show up, I want them to be prepared, safe and ready, and give them the tools they need. So I'd be in support.
Thank you very much.
And I just want to echo Mayor Gold's point about, while it may be one huge ask and one budget year, or sorry, Councillor Morton, it is because it hasn't been addressed in a number of years. So this falls to this council and this current budget to make up for what wasn't done in the past.
Maybe highlight the one paragraph there where our chief that we chose, or this council chose, doesn't have Calvin fire equipment. When she shows up on scene, she's wearing Papino camera and stuff.
Oh, my goodness.
And one more thing, we did look for other sources of funding right now to be able to access, and there's not a lot out there. And so pointed out, as you all recall, I sent a memo out when I saw the 2024 budget that spoke of this 2024 Ontario budget that was going to announce some funding to do exactly this, but we don't know when. It doesn't establish a date. I did call the MPP's office. There's no idea when this might come out. So if we could wait for this because we knew that applications were going to be submitted, I'm certain that we could make a very successful plea to access that funding for this type of equipment. But we don't know when. So it would mean waiting up to 3 years if we're waiting for that fund. We don't know when it's coming. So we did look other places outside of council's budget.
Would there be any point in purchasing, like, let's just say we wanted to purchase 5 units as it says here? Would there be a point in purchasing 3 and waiting a month or 2 months to purchase the other 2?
Still budget year same. There will be more need. So this is to fill the immediate need to replace equipment that is 10 years past its manufacturing life, which is against NFPA 1851 standards. Right now, you're operating with equipment that should not be used according to the standards.
Thank
This
you.
is a necessity, not a nice to have, and we're rebuilding it. I don't know.
Right.
We should just move on it. The money's there somewhere.
Right. If there's no other discussion, I'll call this to a vote. Donna has kindly read the entire resolution, so all those in favor as read. And I am as well, so that is carried unanimously. Thank you for your input, everyone.
And finally, seems to be the theme of our, since the chief has come along, new firefighter, one more time being recommended to council. And I'll read the resolution. Now therefore be resolved that council for the corporation of the municipality of Calvin accept the fire chief's recommendation to hire the following firefighter. Cody Beaumont, effective April 9th, 2024. And furthermore, the fire chief will submit to the CEO their home, cell, telephone numbers, email addresses, state of hire, position title, along with copies of the said license if relevant to the role, and a completed federal and provincial tax forms by April 30th, 2024. Also wanted to comment that I know that Mariel's very aware that DZ operators are hard to find right now in our fire department. So we may see something coming up later on so that we can be assured of having DZ drivers on the fire department in whatever way that we might be able to do that in our recruitment. And I'm saying Mariel in her recruitment efforts in the future. So it's really nice to see. I think that you'll agree that we've had so many new firefighters just in the last few meetings. It's a great addition to our community, and we know how important.
The envy of other neighboring fire departments, just so you know. I just need a mover and a seconder for this motion. Councillor Morton and Councillor Manson.
And we read the motions.
Any discussion? None? None? I think it's great. Thank you very much. So call this to a vote. All those in favor of the resolution? And I am as well. Councillor Grant, are you? Okay, so it's carried unanimously. The next resolution. Donna, I'll let you, again, we're back to the fire department.
All right, so if it's okay for me to proceed with reading it, it just saves the introduction. It's the same anyway.
Right.
So the District of Nipissing Social Services.
But before you go on, let's get a mover and a seconder for this resolution.
Okay.
That would be Councillor Grant and Councillor Morton. Okay, so go ahead, Donna.
So whereas DSAB, Paramedic Services and the Calvin Fire Department wish to enter into a medical tiered response agreement for the mutual benefit of each agency and to assist community residents. And whereas the fire chief deems it necessary to enter into such an agreement, and whereas council for the corporation of the municipality of Calvin accepts the recommendation of the fire chief to renew the medical tiered response agreement with the District of Nipissing Social Services Administration Board Paramedic Services, hereas known as DNSSAB. Now therefore be resolved that council for the municipality of Calvin ratifies the attached agreement as follows: that the mayor and CEO are designated as the signing officers and are authorized to execute an agreement on behalf of the corporation of the municipality of Calvin, that the agreement between the corporation of the municipality of Calvin and DNSSAB be hereto attached and form part and parcel of this bylaw. This agreement shall be enacted and effect upon signing thereof.
All right, the agreement is attached. Is there any discussion on this, this agreement?
Explain, Bill, a little bit about what this really is.
Actually, Councillor Grant would be first, I guess.
Well, I just had a question, just for anybody, I wish Mariel was here. Are we adding additional medical services? Like, are we changing anything that we're doing, in terms of medical services on the fire department? It makes sense, it sounds nice.
Part of the problem is,
Curious.
the ambulance service has strict rules about where they go. And for instance, we had a medical call here in the Eau Claire Gorge. And they parked in our parking lot and said we can't go off road. So we had to go off road, bring the patient out to them. And there's another famous one where in Redbridge, where a snowmobiler hit a tree, bled to death. Well, the fire department and the ambulance sat on the highway, not allowed to go in because the OPP had the agreement to go in and get them. So this gives us the agreement, if they ask for our help, we can go. But we have to have first aid.
But you can also refuse. It says on section 5, 6, and 7, the fire department shall only respond to calls within the municipal boundaries of their respective township.
Right.
Or upon the request of paramedics, or where any paramedic services resource assignment to an emergency call is expected to be delayed more than 8 minutes. Yes,
And so, you know, I'm in favor, I just, what I want to be cautious of as a municipality and as a council is that we pay DSAB, you know, $230,000 a year. Like that's a significant portion of our budget. I just wouldn't want it to be a way to, that now we pay them and then now we're doing, you know, I just don't want to take on their services, right? Like what they could be
Understood.
providing. I'm in favor of assisting, additional, like adding to their effectiveness, but not, allowing, you know, not now we're, so to speak, them downloading costs as well. And that's, you know, I'm gonna support this resolution, in the short term, and I would just like to, you know, when the fire chief returns, kind of make sure that we're not accepting any downloaded costs, basically, that we're already should be paying for.
Understood.
Well, the fire department wouldn't be doing transport. They would be basically stabilizing the person. We have AED. And, so if somebody had a heart attack, down on the end of Bronson Lake Road, we could go and administer the AED, because any person can administer that. If they had a cut finger, we could put do first aid, but we wouldn't be able to do anything that paramedics are required to do.
Absolutely.
That,
You know.
and they would there for something, say at the end of Bronson Lake Road, it would be more than 8 minutes for them to get there. So, and we would be there much faster than they would.
So the way this is worded is you can't go outside of Calhoun Township to administer aid unless the paramedics have requested
Yeah.
that you do that.
So it means if we were,
Which I support. That's
no,
my,
we wouldn't
that's
be going
my-
outside anyways, but
I support that.
we have
idea.
an automatic aid with Papineau. So if we were over there, that they respond to every fire call. We don't have that agreement with them. So if one of our guys get hurt, we have to wait for an ambulance to respond. If Papineau responds to a fire call, the ambulance goes,
Okay,
but to a structure fire.
does that answer your question, King?
I mean, it does, you know, I just would like to be, I'm gonna support the resolution. I think it makes sense. I don't think, I just want to be cautious as not to, you know, move in a direction where
So
we're.
your fear is that our fire department is gonna be called upon to do extra work
That we're already paying them to do.
that we're already paying through DSAT to do.
Yes, that's my, not fear, yeah, that's my concern, yes.
Your
That's
concern.
why we'd like to just be conscious of that.
And that is something we can bring forward the next time the fire chief is,
Yeah, and that's where I think there's the time.
all right?
I have
Any
a
other-
question. I have a question. Is this, are we renewing something that's existing or is this a brand new agreement?
No, this is existing tonight.
This is existing, it is an annual.
But it has not been in place, correct?
It hasn't been in place because of the flux that we've been in. There's not been any, not that we can find, this has been in place for a little bit. And just to Councillor Morton's, if you look at the tiered response activation criteria, unconscious or unresponsive patients, arrest or choking incidents, those are not things, right? And I would imagine, it doesn't say, but these are the billable back to times. To your question or about downloading it back to us.
So it's billable back.
They're billable back, yeah.
All right,
Now, like when we go to a call where the hydro lines are down and it causes some kind of problem, we bill it back to the hydro. We do an accident on the highway, bill it back to MDO.
all right.
And
That
always
makes
at
sense.
the fire chief's discretion, every single call. So if there's something else happening that night or day or whatever that is,
If there's something, a fire in Calvin,
or no people to attend.
that's right.
Sounds like a good agreement.
All right. Then any last discussion before I call this to a vote? No? All right, so I will call bylaw 2024-20, -022 to a vote. All those in favor? And I am as well, so that's carried unanimously. That copy or? Was there? Oh, yes, because I wrote all over it, yes, that's all right. This is, for the fire department, those are fire chiefs.
We were the only signing authorities, but so if you want to sign here.
All right, so, the next item on the agenda is 10.1.16.
It's sorry, it's too long for him to sit another.
I just need a mover and a seconder. This is for the Ontario budget papers. Councillor Morton and Councillor Manson. This is just really simple. I attended, a budget presentation hosted by MPP Vic Fidelli. And I'm just giving you a little bit of insight as to what their presentation was of the Ontario budget. Just because we are under provincial control, and it's interesting to hear sort of what the direction is of the provincial government. The questions that came up in this town hall meeting primarily were about housing. And I think of all the questions that I heard come up, a good 50% of them or better were about what housing was going to be presented in the Ontario budget for people. And there were three levels of questions. One was just how much new housing is the government going to support? And another one was how much new housing is the government going to support for people of limited means? And then the last one was how much new housing is going to be supported for people who are homeless. So there was a big concern of most of the people who attended is to understand how the Ontario government is going to address housing in the province. And of course, you can see it in the budget that there is a lot of emphasis on housing projects, housing fast starts, deregulating certain housing practices that they have in existence right now. But on the other side, there was a lot of information provided by MPP Vic Fidelli. And the one thing that was overwhelming to me was the amount of interest that MPP Vic Fidelli placed on electric vehicles. And it came up over and over again. Now, he was adamant that he was against carbon tax and felt that the carbon tax was detrimental to the economy because it was increasing the cost of buying gasoline, but it also increased the cost of transportation of goods and services. It increased the cost of groceries. It increased the cost of just normal business and industry within the province. So he railed against the carbon tax, but was very much in favor of electric vehicle production in the province of Ontario. And then he talked about the new plants that are being built in Southern Ontario to build electric vehicles, about the new plants that are being built to produce batteries. And he talked about the Circle of Fire up in Northern Ontario, mining for lithium, for nickel, that all he felt is going to increase the economy of Ontario. And I'll just say that if you want to get into a big argument with MPP Fidelli, tell him that electric vehicles are no good and they're going to destroy the province, because he would certainly disagree with you there based on his presentation of the budget. The only question I asked was about the firefighters, and that was whether this grant was going to be available soon and how would we apply. So did he ever call you back, or did someone from the office ever call?
No, I followed up
Oh, you called it out?
about a week later.
Okay. So that's it. That was the budget presentation from the provincial government that electric vehicles are gonna save us all. And that's the mode of the future, and that the Ontario government will be working hard to build new houses and provide more residences for people. So is there any questions that anybody has, or any comments?
I have a question. Do you know what a Bennett buggy is?
A what?
A
A
Bennett
Bennett
buggy?
buggy?
Yes.
Oh, I don't. What is that?
Well, we're headed that way with electric cars. It's a car pulled by a horse during the Depression.
No comment.
Well, as I said before, an electrician who was over at the fire hall for a problem we had said that, up here, I think our electric cars are not, a wise choice in Northern Ontario. And he said that in the winter time, there's gonna be one broken down on the highway, and what are you gonna do? Go jump start it? You can't give them gas, you can't, it's just.
Tow it.
Yeah, well, yeah. But down in the city, yeah, you only gotta go 25 kilometers or something to work. Probably great.
Right. Well, that's the reality of what is going on in Ontario with politics at this point in time. So, thank you for your patience in listening to me ramble on there. Now therefore, the result of the mayor who participated in the 2024 budget presentation hosted by MPP Vic Fideli and provided insight into the information about its content. So, all those in favor of receiving the report? Okay, that is carried. Thank you very much. Don, I'll let you do this one. My voice is getting all cracky. This is the Ontario Building Fund. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Morton and Councillor Manson.
So earlier, before you motion, I consider the importance of the CCPF, formerly known as Gas Tax Fund, to small municipalities, and this is a real example of how this council has traditionally used CCBF and the Ontario government funding called NORS, Northern Ontario Resource Development Support. For the past 4 years, councils have deferred its 4-year funding from both sources, or a portion of the CCBF at least, toward a 2024 project that would see the resurfacing of Boundary and Peddlers Drive. This is apparently something that's done every 4 years or so, and it is largely funded or in whole funded by CCBF and NORS funding. We have promised the funder through agreements by deferring this over the last 4 years that this project would take place to resurface Boundary Road to Peddlers, west along Peddlers across 630 to just west of Galston Road, approximately 11.7 kilometers. And we need to issue that RFP so that it can be done on time over the summer into fall, according to our agreements with both funders. So this is a motion asking that Council for the Corporation of Municipality of Kelvin authorize the CEO to issue the RFP for the completion of this work as per our agreements with both CCBF and NORS funders.
All right, thank you. Discussion. All right, Councillor Grant.
I have a number of questions. I would like to have a discussion around this issue. And I did speak with Donna about, just previous to the meeting, about, it's pretty clear that there's a commitment that we've made through the funding to do this work. And I would like to try to, in my opinion, try to figure out if we can either, if we could do something to either extend it and gather more resources, or if we can shorten the length or do something. And I'll circle back to why I'm saying this is like brings back to the first term of council that I served on. And it had come up at that point, and there was a number of residents that were quite vocal about, it being a waste of money and it doesn't work. And there was some concern around this resurfacing. And at that point, we had the funding, so I had supported it, went through, and I clearly remember it was I had went into the office and I said, when are they going to do the resurfacing? Like, because people are, residents were asking me, when are they gonna finish? And she said, oh, they finished 3 days ago. And, it was amazing that the quality was not there. And within one winter, the boundary road was, all the same potholes were frost heaved and back to original. And I think at that point it was $350,000, if my memory's right. And so I just would like to see us try to get better value for the grant money, in my opinion, and I'm not opposed to resurfacing, and if we're committed, we're committed, but, and maybe we look beyond this and maybe not commit in the future, or try to maybe focus on, if we can, just focus on just boundary and get rid of some of the underlying issues in the road so that the frost heaves don't just wreck the road as quickly. I'm not an engineer or a road superintendent, but I mean, just seeing this over the years, the comments in the past, and then moving forward and having another opportunity to discuss it. I now agree with many of those residents in the initial sense. And I don't know, if there's anything we could do to, or if anybody else is interested in what I'm talking about, to try to, maybe try to understand that commitment that we have, and maybe try to get a better value for that grant money in terms of long-term investment in that infrastructure. It's very long-winded, but I wanted to try to explain all that and lay all that out, because that's the kind of history I have with this resurfacing.
Any comments from anyone else? Thank you, Councillor Grant.
Maybe we can expand on the resurfacing. Is it laying asphalt on top of the existing asphalt?
Oh, okay.
Is that, like,
That I can answer. Highway 630, since I've lived here, has always been what's called coal top. And at one point in time, that was just a gravel road. And so they decided to put coal top, the province did, on that highway, which is the process that just happened last year, where you saw they level it, then they level it, then they put gravel down, then they put water down, and they pack it, then they put more gravel down, and then they put tar, and then they put gravel on top of that. And then people drive on it, and then the gravel kind of sort of dissipates, it gets pressed into the coal top, and then you have the surface that you have on Highway 630. I certainly remember this summer when they did that, I was thinking, oh, when are they gonna put the tar down? But I guess they had put it down one night that I didn't drive the road, and then they put gravel on top, so I never even noticed that the tar was there. And I think that's what Councillor Grant is talking about, is some people thought, well, when are they gonna do this? When are they gonna do this? Well, they did exactly the same process on Edwards Drive, all the way from Galston Road to Boundary, and then up Boundary to the highway. Maybe we didn't do as good of a job as the province did. I don't know. And I can't tell you, but I will tell you that when the province did Highway 630 this summer, I certainly never noticed the day that they went and put the tar down. It was all of a sudden it was there, and I might have gone into the province and said, when are you gonna do that highway? It doesn't even make sense to me. You gotta do that. And they could have said, oh, well, we did that last week, sir. And I'm sure that there is some confusion, but I will tell you this, I don't think I'd want to drive down Highway 630 if it was just a gravel road all the time. So that's the process. And the same thing that happened on Highway 630 last year is what they're talking about doing here. They would lift that coal top that's there, put gravel down, level it, gravel down, level it, gravel down, then tar. Well, I'm saying tar, it's probably not tar, but some kind of road surfacing, then gravel on top of that, and then it gets driven into the road, and becomes this hard packed road. And apparently, in the 40 years that I've lived here, Highway 17 from Highway 630 to North Bay has been done 4 or 5 times, where they stripped up the pavement and they put new pavement down. Highway 630 has been done 2 or 3 times. So there's probably a longevity of these kind of road surfaces that they just don't last forever. and need to be redone. So that's what this grant is for, is to redo that section of the road. Now, Councillor Grant, your concern is the quality
My
of,
concern is the quality in the base. And my concern is, when you drive down Boundary Road, you're rattling tires right out of your car, and I don't care what surface you put on that base. And you can't change the base after you change the surface. So I guess, with my conversation with the CAO and my understanding is that, this is a project that we're committed to because of the way that we, the way that the funding is set up.
right?
And so it is,
And apparently if we don't go ahead with the project, we just have the money.
we
back.
just lose the money.
Yes.
But I mean, so I guess that that being the case, that leads me with basically two suggestions. When we create a budget and maybe we can do some more base work, or, in the future, I mean, I'll support this as not to lose the money, but I wouldn't support any future allocation of funds in this surfacing like this.
Right.
It's just my opinion.
We are in the process of looking at making some personnel changes that I can talk about. And I can also say that I'm not a road expert. Don isn't a road expert. No one on council is a road expert. So maybe this is something that with the personnel changes that we're making, that these concerns can be addressed.
Yeah, maybe get some better advice on how to approach it, to get some better, I just want to get some better quality out of the job. Cause I know we do this the winter after, cause it's already happened. It happened before me, and then people tried to convince me of it, and then I witnessed it with my own eyes, and I promise you, the winter after we do this, the majority of those proceeds are all gonna be there. Off your car.
Maybe
Could
what's
I,
supposed-
could I jump in there with a question? This discussion, how much funding do we have, and is there a deadline on when we have to use it? And just a comment, I think, again, I'm no expert on highway construction, but from what I understand, I've been told it's about $1 million a kilometer if you want to bring up Boundary Road to, Highway 17 standards. It's just not, you'd have to dig it down, build it up. We're just resurfacing. And again, what's the deadline on using the money, and how much funding do we have?
$241,000. Deadline is October 2024, sorry. That the project would be complete by, and that's why the RFP needs to go now.
Can we apply for an extension on it? Is this a thing?
There's what they call limited capacity to build your project out, and we would be at that 4-year deadline. No different than the gas tax money that we had to spend. It's because it's a 4-year, what they call banking limit. We can only bank it for 4 years.
And if just a comment, Councillor Grant, if I'm driving to Manawa, I always go up and across Peddler's Drive and never down Homestead. So it may be bad, but it's the best of the available options.
I get it. I just, I understand now, like, I was just having a hard time with this idea that we locked into this funding. Obviously I was probably part of this. Maybe not. I'm not sure if I was around then, but, I just would like to select it differently, or kick in even some more money if we have it in the budget to try to do it, just do a little, even if it's a few hundred meters. Like Boundary's a very, very highly trafficked road. Peddlers isn't as bad. Boundary's pretty bad in
Right,
terms of base, I think.
yes,
I just don't think you need to be an engineer, I think.
from the,
If there's a resident driving down Boundary, you can tell the base is bad.
right. So that we'll do our best to go forward, but if there's no discussion, I'd like to call this to a vote.
Oh,
Oh, go ahead.
before you, I just want to say that I appreciated Councillor Grant calling me so we could have this discussion in advance, so that I wasn't caught off guard at the council meeting to try to answer some of the questions, and so that I was aware, that he might bring an opposition to it. That's really important. We've talked about how, as a council with staff, that we do communicate, and so I really appreciated that. I did voice that already to Councillor Grant. I also want to tell you that one of the other things I shared was at our monthly CEO regional meetings, we spoke of this type of resurfacing and how across the board, no doubt, everything that you're saying, municipalities are unhappy with the longevity of the product when it's placed. And essentially what the conclusion around the table is that the projects are so small in nature, the dollar value of those projects, that when we put these tenders out, these bids out, not very many are willing to come to the individual municipalities to do 2 kilometers, sometimes, 4 kilometers. In our case, I think we had the longest at 11.7. So we did talk as CEOs about the opportunity in the future. Right now, everyone, as you know, around the region is going through some tougher times for a lot of reasons. That in the future, we might want to pool our projects together so that we can send out an RFP out there to say, in the small region, we have, a larger number of kilometers. And if you could bid on this project, this one big project, where we might be 50 kilometers of work rather than 2.2 kilometers and 11.7 over here, we might then bring in companies who traditionally wouldn't bid on the smaller projects. So that's something that as CEOs, we're talking about bringing to
Excellent.
councils in the future. And I don't disagree with you at all. I mean, I'm not an engineer either, but I know that even, with Brandon, who was our acting road superintendent, he's often talked about the base and how we need to get to the base. We need to cut to the base, right, before we should be doing these kinds of things. So as you did mention, in the future, we'll most likely have a change in public works management. And so we should be.
Yeah, let's put the next council in a better situation on this one where they can make different, if they choose to make different decisions.
And you can too. I mean, this CCBF fund, it comes up at us every year. So you will have an opportunity to speak about where this funding and how it's reserved and what kinds of projects that you want to put forward. Again, we move into our planning session, and when we have different reports from different, heads of departments about what recommendations, how we should move forward.
Excellent.
Good, that's what I have.
Thank you very much. All right, so if there's no further discussion, I'll call it to a vote. All those in favor of the resolution as proposed? All right, that motion is carried. Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Council for the Corporation of the Municipality of Calvin encourages recycling positively impacting the lifespan of the landfill. This is our next resolution, which is 2024-152. I need to move her to seconder, please. Councillor Morton and Councillor Grant. So council previously approved the purchase of the blue and gray boxes for all households in the municipality using the balance of the at-risk gas tax funds, also called the CBF. In recognition of Earth Day 2024, council members are being asked to attend the landfill on Tuesday, April the 23rd, and Saturday, April the 27th. To launch the programs and greet residents. So these are the blue boxes and the gray box. I'll just bring them up so they show up in the camera. Look at that beauty, the municipality of Calvin. And there's the blue box there as well. These have different uses and we'll go to each resident. Now, John is just handing me a magnet, and they're defective because they don't stick. Look,
It's not.
these are fridge magnets, and these will be handed out to Calvin residents. And these just describe what goes into each type of recycling box: aluminum cans, plastic bottles, plastic tubs and lids, steel cans into the blue box, clear plastics as well. And into the gray box would be cartons, paper, Terra packs, newspaper, flattened cardboard, egg cartons, and paper rolls. So I guess what this resolution is asking for is a commitment from council to attend these 2 days at the dump to hand out fridge magnets and the recycle boxes.
Meet the residents.
And meet the residents. I can go either day, so I'll be the fill-in for, so I won't go both days, but I'll go one of the two. And if I can get a commitment from everybody else, when they might be there to meet residences and do some election campaigning for 2 years in the future.
Is it both days or one or the other? Are we altering the?
I think,
Work them amongst yourselves.
yeah, I think I don't think.
I mean, I would like to try to potentially attend both days.
Sure.
I mean, Tuesday, if there's no conflict with work, Saturday is more likely, but
Super.
yeah, that's
So we have Councillor Grant for both days, if
put
possible.
them in my calendar right now, so.
And we can do this offline, not
Sure.
necessarily today, but,
All right,
Tired, I'll probably be there.
you'll be there for both days. I know Councillor Latimer won't be able to be there on Tuesday, but if you could be there on a Saturday, that would be wonderful.
I won't be able to be in, I think Vernon, BC on that day.
Oh,
So-
son of a,
I know.
you'll be looking.
Can we put up a screen? Could attend virtually.
Life-size cutout.
I'm on vacation from April 19th back on May 6th, so I'm going to miss the next council meeting as well.
That's okay.
So I guess you won't be there for the firefighter breakfast on the 20th either.
No, and somehow I got the date mixed up. I thought it was last weekend, but I would like to be, but I won't be now.
All right,
Life gets in the way
and
sometimes.
Councillor Munson, if you could make it, that would be wonderful too.
Absolutely. I believe I'm free both days, but for sure the Tuesday.
Perfect. And we'll hand these out to the residents. This was taken care of by that gas tax grant. And they do have something up at the landfill site, and it was a little confusing. I don't know if you saw it, but they had the plastic bottles in one container and the tins in another one, but they can all go into just the blue box.
that's right. So this is about educating, the public and our own landfill attendants. And again, with time, a public works manager who those, all of our employees at landfill will fall under. In the future, we can, certainly make sure that things are happening. We know that the Blue Box recycling program, we had that guest speaker a few months ago speak about the Blue Box transition program. This is getting residents ready and our landfill attendants ready for what's coming. And you're absolutely right. Not everything needs to be sorted the way it's sorted. It essentially does land in what is considered a blue box and a gray box when they come take it away. Clean recyclables, or else we get charged for recyclables that are not.
I think the one thing that we really have to emphasize to residents, and that this is for all of council who is going to be at these meetings, is that you heard Simon Foster speak about the cost of opening a new landfill. And everything that we can do, including Councillor Manson's recommendation for these organic recyclers, but this as well, everything that we can do to make the landfill last longer is going to benefit every resident. It's not just an issue for the township. It's an issue for the taxation of the residents. And this is going to help everybody. It's going to help everybody pay less taxes in the future. Maybe not while we're here,
100%.
but in the future.
This is all the little decisions. It's a compounding interest in decisions and things that we do to extend the life of the landfill will benefit future residents. period.
Absolutely.
And current as well.
Sure.
Rolls out.
All right, is there any other discussion? Yes, no? All right, so I'll call this to a vote. Council, now therefore be it resolved, in recognition of Earth Day 2024, council members will attend the landfill on Tuesday, April the 23rd and Saturday, April the 27th to launch the program, greet residents and distribute the boxes to them and the fridge magnets. All those in favor? You don't get to vote, Councillor Latimer, you're on vacation. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Oh, that's
Well,
carried.
One of you can hand out the fridge magnets with my picture on it for the next election, if you wouldn't mind.
We'll work on that.
It's a good way to. And
Part-time job.
You know what, this is out of line and I'm not supposed to do this, but I will make a suggestion. If council's going to be there, why not have a little form printed out that we can hand out with the fridge magnets, asking people if they're interested in your recycler program. I mean, you're gonna see a lot of the Calvin residents there. It's an opportunity to gauge some interest at that point in time.
And we have designed a sheet now for, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, about how we manage the amount of waste that comes in from what, residents. Right now, we have cards, very expensive. Most people don't take them with them. We've now come up with a new method for tracking how much does come in per household. And that will begin with the blue box and gray box handout. So the survey could also be there, right? As people, they could even fill it out right then and there and hand it back to you. So, yeah.
All right, so we've voted on that. That's all in favor. Let's move on to the next item, which is 2024 153. This is the ombudsman report. I just need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Morton and Councillor Manson. Now therefore be it resolved, the council is in receipt of the ombudsman report dated April 2024, as it relates to two committees created during the early days of its team and during tumultuous times when there was an absence of both experienced council and staff, and furthermore, the council agrees to the recommendations brought forward within the report. Is there any discussion? None? All right, all those in favor, I'm sorry?
Nothing, so no discussion.
Okay, all those in favor of the report? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. So we come to the happy point in the evening, 2024 155, to move into closed session. I missed
this one.
I missed the ABCs, yes. I'm out of order. So sorry, this is the ABCs 11.1.16. North Bay Mattawa Conservation Authority, Councillor Morton.
I submitted a report to the staff regarding our meeting on March 28th. And we have a tentative meeting set for May 2nd. And the report's on file in the with the minutes.
Thank you. Mattawa Area Police Board Services. This would be your last report, I guess.
Yes, on the 27th of March, the police board was dissolved, and on April 1st, a new police board was created, the OPP Detachment Board. Councillor Grant.
Yes. Looking up our net, when we had a meeting, the meeting scheduled May.
So let's jump down to that, to the OPP Detachment Board, Councillor Grant.
Yeah, just the only update I have is that there's a meeting scheduled May 29th.
Okay.
So
And this is a new board.
this is a new board.
The physicians recruitment, we only meet 4 times a year. So the next meeting is still 2 months away. So there is no report at this time. And then the ad hoc code of conduct committee, that's Councillor Grant, Manson and Latimer. Would any one of you like to pick up on the ad hoc committee, code of conduct committee?
There's nothing to report. Our next meeting is tentatively scheduled for April 19th, and we're waiting to hear back from the Integrity Commissioner on our recommendations to edit or add to the revise the code of conduct.
Thank you. Councillor Manson, I'm sorry, we interrupted you.
No, that's,
You're good?
Sorry,
All right.
Councilor Manson, I can't see you, so I can't tell if you're who's talking or who's going to talk. Sorry.
So we have a question on the floor from
Regarding these meetings, if the Mattawa, or said the East Nipissing Planning Board decided to have a meeting in this hall, would we be expected to fill them for that meeting?
According to our bylaw, anything that's outside of council, there's a charge unless it's funeral for a resident.
Okay, I just, because I asked about a meeting for the OPP detachment board and was told it'd be a rental fee.
According to bylaw. Yeah.
It's okay. No, I just, then that meeting on May 29th will probably be changed.
Okay. Well, that's one that Councillor Grant started.
You know, I'm the secretary.
Okay. Well, I'll leave that up to you guys. It's
So I just, I had that question because the other members of the
Unless you
board
brought
all
it,
said you gotta be joking. So that we'll move it to one of their other,
unless you put it in bylaw. I mean, I.
yeah, no, I agree.
I just want to say that we've been very clear to community about the existence of bylaws and how we don't deviate from them unless we have authorization from council. So the question posed was there be a charge? The bylaw says
Yes,
unless it's the council, it states who does get and under what condition.
Yeah, but my question was the fact that it was a meeting involving council, approved committees.
It's a board outside of
It's a board.
council.
Okay,
It's another
no
organization.
problem.
all right, and
Whether we agree with it or not, you can amend. the
No,
bylaw.
I didn't say, I didn't agree with it. I just said that it was kind of like when we discussed having the meeting here, it was, an opportunity because nobody else seems to be stepping up to, assist in this board continuation. Okay, move on.
all right, East Nipissing Planning Board, Councillor Grant and I are both on the planning board. Our next meeting is, next week.
April 19th.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, we will get back after April 19th with the report from that board. And that's it for the ABCs. Thank you very much. So,
Now we-
and now we go into the, closed meeting. I'm sorry, I'm missing that. Thank you. Now therefore, so I need a mover and a seconder to move into closed. Councillor Morrison and Councillor Manson. Council for the Corporation and Municipality of Calvin hereby move into closed session at 8:10 PM to discuss labor relations or employee negotiations, litigation and potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality, and advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. All those in favor? All right, that is carried. And we are closed. Wayne, sorry it was lengthy, but it was lengthy.
Hey, sorry. I want to thank